Welcome to LSC. It's Sports Time. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have with me Pat Patrick, former Hampton Crabber, lawyer. Now he's a judge, and he's agreed to come in here and talk to me today. Glad to have you, Pat.
Glad to be here, Bob.
Let's go back, Thorpe Junior High School. I remember when you were playing at Thorpe and I was coaching over at Buckrow, we never could beat you guys.
Well, that's when I started first playing for Frank Harrison.
Right, he was West Virginian.
West Virginia boy, and he didn't put up with a whole lot of grief. And that's when Mike Anastasio and I started playing together. And we had a guy named Raymond Pressey, he just retired from the city not that long ago. Right. Heck of a ball player. Lewis Swan, Merlin Wimbush was our big man. Yeah, I remember that team well. We went undefeated.
Yeah. I was talking to my brother because my brother was coaching over at Eaton at the time. He said, we couldn't beat them either. I said, well, I don't know nobody beat you guys. Because you guys just was you played so well together. And in junior high school, I know I was just still trying to develop, just get the fundamentals in these kids, and you guys looked like you were a step above what we were doing. So, well, coaches, I guess.
Yeah, we had played a little bit together in rec ball. Mike had played over in Newport News at the boys club, and I'd played in Hampton, and then, we lived near each other, and so we had played together. And then when we went to Thorpe, the other boys came on in, and we just had a good old time.
Well, and then you went to Hampton High, had a great career at Hampton High, winning the state championship. That had to be just, the icing on the cake.
That was fantastic. 1969. Right. I remember the entire game. I remember where everybody was. It was in Charlottesville at the old U-Haul. Right. There were 9,000 people there, and probably 7,000 of them were from Hampton.
I wouldn't doubt that a bit, because I remember the game. But you had some pretty good guys on that team. John Wheeler, to think, and Dunn, and
Foley Jones, Mike Anastasio, the Saunders brothers.
And your backup, Henry Morgan. Henry said, I didn't get to play much, but he said, I had to guard you. He said he had to guard you in practice.
Well,
that must have made you good, right?
Well, it did. Because Coach Russell, that was his deal, was defense. Right. Every day in practice. See, I felt that my junior year, Steve Turnbull was who I had to guard. Right. And vice versa. And we lived 3 or 4 houses down from each other. But you would have thought in practice we hated each other because we were at each other because that's the way Coach Glenn wanted it. And then Henry came along, and it was the same way. Yeah. Weren't friends during practice.
Not during practice, yeah. Talk about that championship game. That had to be just unbelievable.
Well, the whole tournament was amazing because, one, the year before we had lost in the regional finals to Maury. Right. Okay. And then we got to play them again in the regional finals in '69, and they were the #1 team in the state. They had a kid named Craig Leader, I believe we went to Tech on scholarship, and he had put it to us the year before, but we beat them 58-46 over in the Norfolk Arena, and. A little bit of revenge. And then we went to the state semifinals and were matched against Maggie Walker. Maggie Walker that year, had Jesse Dark and William Franklin. Both of them ended up playing in the NBA. They came in averaging 85 points a game. Back then in '69,
that's a lot of points.
That was a heck of a lot of points. We beat them 49-38. I remember after the ball game, they came out of their locker room, and we came out of ours. Everybody's dressed, and they were, talking, going, great game, but next time we sure would like to play y'all in basketball, where you take the ball up and down the hoop, and it was like, we didn't want to get beat 85-46.
Right. So you guys controlled the tempo, and that was the reason you won that game.
That's right. And then in the finals, we played Jefferson Senior they had a kid named Ron Marsh who who went on to play college ball and beat them 49-43. So.
Well, all close games.
Yeah.
But that's the way basketball back then was. You walked the ball up. You wasn't what you see now, the up and down the court, and you were in better shape refereeing than you were playing basketball. I imagine running up and down the court. But now you graduated from high school. You go to UVA.
Right.
Talk about that.
And I played on the first year team, and I thought I might have a shot at playing, but I came into Charlottesville the same time a guy named Barry Parkhill did.
Oh, I remember that name.
And Barry came from State College, Pennsylvania, and he was a 6'5" center in high school. When he came to UVA, Coach Bob Gibson said he's going to be a point guard because he could handle the ball very well.
Right.
So my days of playing point guard were limited when I saw what he could do.
Well,
but I enjoyed it.
But back then, you didn't see a 6'5" guy being a point guard.
No.
I mean, that was very unusual. 6'2" was pretty big for a point guard.
That's right, and he was ACC Player of the Year his junior year and was on the All-ACC team, and of course he ended up playing pro ball for the St. Louis Spirits of the ABA. Great guy, still in Charlottesville.
How about that? Now, after you finished your college, you went on to law school. Mm-hmm. Where did you go to UVA?
Went to UVA Law School, but I didn't stop getting involved in sports just because I went to law school.
Is that when you started refereeing?
Well, I started refereeing my second year of college.
Okay.
Because I would go down to Memorial Gym and call 5 intramural games a night, 2 or 3 nights a week. $5 a game.
So you're just picking up some change.
Just picking up a little pocket change, and then when I went to law school, I became the head of the officials for the university. Okay. And so I scheduled all the officials for basketball, football,
softball, anything.
Anything they had, I was the head of the officials. And then I got into the Piedmont Association up there, High School Basketball Association. And when you first get in, you do a lot of traveling. I was sent to do JV games up to Culpeper and down to Farmville and, 60, 70 miles away to do a JV game for $10.
When you first got into it, was it something you thought that you would do for a long time, or was it just I just needed extra pocket change?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was fun. I went to Blue Ridge Academy one Thursday. I was coming from Charlottesville, and the other guy was coming from Page County. Well, he couldn't make it because the snow was coming from the north. I made it to Blue Ridge. They had 4 ball games scheduled. The team had come in from another part of the country and had gotten there the day before. So I did an 8th grade game, I did a JV game, I did a varsity game, and then they had what was equivalent of your first year in college, their prep game. So
Were you the only one?
I was the only one, and I did mainly standing at half court, but I did it. Got all 4 of them in, couldn't get out of town. They gave me a bid, and I think I made $35 that day.
Wow.
But I officiated up until 1995 when I went on the bench, and I was very fortunate to do 6 state championship games during those years.
Well, and I'm not going to try to blow smoke at you, but I always enjoyed having you do my game. You and Jesse Kersey.
You sure didn't seem like it,
well,
though.
Yeah, I did. Did I yell a lot? I don't know.
You didn't yell as much as my former coach, Bob Shanley. He was, when I was officiating, Bob York was playing, I think, tab, and they were playing at York, and this is when they had to implement the seat belt to keep the coach in it.
Oh, yeah, you had to stay down under, you couldn't get up off the chair. I remember that.
Right. Well, I made a call one time that went against York. He unbuckled that seat belt, and he came up, and he started screaming and yelling at me, and I said, Coach, if you don't sit down, I'm going to have to give you a tee. He says, why do you think I'm in your face? All the fans are back over here because we only have one set of stands. So I look like I'm giving you up the river, but I want you to give me a tee and maybe it'll fire my players up a little bit. I said, okay, in that case, then I'm going to just look at you and boom, there. How do you like that? And he barked his head a little bit, went down, put his seatbelt on. I think they came back and won that game.
He was trying to fire his team up. That sounded like Bob Chamberlain. I know that we were fortunate enough that when we were doing the playoff games, we'd get you as a guest commentator on our program. Tim and I enjoyed your perspective. You had a different perspective of the game than what we did, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it because, one, I haven't played, but then having refereed too.
Right.
You're kind of looking at, where the referees are positioned and the calls they make, and you may not look at it the same way I do. Well, but that's just natural.
Well, and I've always said this, that when you make a call, half the people are going to be mad at you.
That's right. That's right.
I don't care, because you can't please everybody. Obviously, in a ball game, you can't. But doing refereeing had to be something that you really showed some passion for. You could see that out before. You really enjoyed what you were doing.
Well, I saw what the officials did when I was playing ball.
Right.
The Cootie Allmans, the Nelson Ellises, Don Ellis, those guys, they enjoyed it.
Right.
And they did a good job, and you appreciate good officials. Walter Brower never wanted me to call his game because I went to Hampton, so I'm gonna be leaning the other way. Jim Harvey at Warwick was just the opposite. You went to Hampton, so you're obviously going to be against me. Well, you don't even look at that.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. You just call the game. You try to be in position, and you sell your call.
Right.
I know that there have been calls I made that when I called it, I made the call, and then the coach said something, and I've been right to him, said, you know what? I got it wrong. What are they going to say then? Jack Baker at Maury, who I played against in the regionals.
Right.
I was calling a tournament up at Fort Eustis. I made a call against Jack's team. They were losing by 15. It was fourth quarter, and I walked by, and he said, that was the worst call I've ever seen. I said, Jack, I think that was probably the worst call I've ever made, too. And he goes, well, you're going to throw me out of this game. I said, why? He says, because I'm tired of watching these guys play so bad. I said, no, you're not. Well, I went down the other end of the court, and he followed me. And I said, Jack, I am not going to throw you out on a horrible call that I made. You can stand here and follow me back down the court. I'm not throwing you out. He did for a second, then he couldn't help but laugh. So he went back to his bench. We came out after the game, and my wife said, that was probably the worst call I've ever seen you make. And Jack was coming out of his locker room, and he goes, I don't know who you are, lady, but you could have called a better game than he did. And we just had a good laugh about it.
Well, you probably saw more changes in basketball from when you played up to when you quit officiating. The game changed. Talk a little bit about that, because we're not only talking athletes getting better, quicker, stronger, faster, three-point shot.
Yeah, we didn't have. I wish we had had the three-point shot when I was playing. I'd average probably twice what I did. Right. But the kids are stronger. They're not as disciplined, but yet they have the athletic ability, and they pick up a basketball when they're 3 and 4 years old, and they start dribbling it, and it's second nature to a lot of them.
Right.
And they're quicker. It's a fast-paced game. It's coached like that for the most part. What's great is when you see the deliberate style versus the no set plays, it up, just run and gun.
Right.
It's interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you're now raising or have adopted your grandkids.
That's right. They are 9 and soon to be 8. Very interesting young men who love sports. They're playing baseball right now on two different. Let's see, they're on 2 different Little League teams, but they are on the same AAU team. But they keep me hopping. Well,
I was talking about. I saw you at one of the Pilots games, and here you are, and these 2 kids are just going. Tell that story about the ingenuity of these 2 kids. Just blew me away.
Well, my wife and I, it was a beautiful Saturday, and the Peninsula District baseball tournament was at War Memorial Stadium, and they start at 10 o'clock, and they play they play 4 games that first day.
Right.
Well, we're just sitting out there in the sun, just watching baseball, because we both love baseball, and Chance and Dallas are with us. And, by the end of the 3rd game, I looked down and, they probably spent $50. I need Cokes, I need popcorn, hot dogs, I want that. And finally I said, no, that's it. No more money. Well, they went off, and the War Memorial is such a great place because you can let the kids go. They have people at the gates. They don't let anybody out. They know everybody.
Right.
So they're, I don't know where they are. They're playing ball or something. Well, all of a sudden, 2 or 3 people come down to us and go, "Your kids are amazing. They are so cute." And I go, "Yeah, right. What do you mean?" "Well, do you know what they're doing?" I said, "No." And they said, "Well, look, see them up there walking through the stands and they have this bag?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What are they doing?" "Well, they have balled up. They have found the hot dog wrappers, the cellophane wrappers. They had balled them up. They were going through the stands selling these cellophane, balled up pieces of cellophane and aluminum foil, going 50 cents a ball. Remember where you were, the Peninsula District Tournament," and people thought it was a hoot. They were buying these pieces of trash. I later found out they made $24. $24, and they just came down and said, "Yeah, you wouldn't give us any more money, so we had to figure out a way to do it."
Well, that's a great story. I tell you, talking to you, I just enjoyed talking to you anyway. But all right, you ended up being a lawyer.
19 years.
19 years as a lawyer, and then all of a sudden you're on the bench.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, I love it. I absolutely love my job. I was very fortunate. At that time, I was nominated by the Hampton Bar Association, which went to the circuit court judges, and they approved me, and then the legislature approved me. It was the time that Will Taylor went up to circuit court.
Right.
And so I've been there. It'll be 16 years in July.
Wow.
The only regret was I had to hang up my refereeing sneakers.
Right.
So I figured if I refereed all day long, I didn't need to referee at night.
Well, I tell you, it's been a pleasure having you in here talking, just reminiscing. And I can remember when you were a kid, not much older than your grandsons that you're raising.
Well, I remember when you had glasses and dark hair were in my face too.
Oh wow! Well, I want to thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sportstime. I want to thank my special guest Pat Patrick. I'm your host Bob Hintz. Till next time.